something, but I'm always working on something. Right now I'm working on another film for the Tatlif Collective in the series of Tatlif Files, which is what Jordan Richter's story falls under. A film about a brother named Haroon who was incarcerated in prison, spent a good portion of his life in jail, and now he's out. He's Muslim, he converted in prison. He's out now living in society, and the story is just about him and him reacclimating to life outside of prison. And I have footage of him actually that I shot inside the prison 5 years ago while he was inside. So it's, it's an interesting story. He's a very good singer. He's the one who calls the adhan for us at that Tatlif Collective. He's very into jazz and to blues, and so the story is actually called Prison Blues. That's the name of the film. Hope to finish it by the end of December, inshallah. Yeah, and I get this a lot. So much so that it's difficult for a lot of converts, and I think it's important for people to know that sometimes it's difficult for converts to tell their story, because often they know that they're not being asked because there's a real concern for their story. They know that they're being asked because the person asking them just wants to be inspired themselves, right? So you're just kind of like a tool or a pawn for this person's inspiration. So I sometimes joke with people when they ask me this, because I know what they're looking for. They don't want the mundane, I just made the decision, I read the Quran, or I heard about Islam, and I studied it for a while, and it made sense, so I converted. And you see their faces when you tell that story, like, oh, okay, what about you, brother? Right? How did you convert, right? And they keep going down the line till they get that interesting story. So sometimes I just say, I was walking down the street, it was a cloudy day, the clouds parted, lightning struck me in the chest, and I fell unconscious, and when I woke up, Allah was tattooed on my chest in Arabic, and I just knew I had to be Muslim, right? That's the story they're looking for. And I was like, MashaAllah, brother, Allah is God, right? But oftentimes it's not that romantic, it's not that drastic, it's not that, but oftentimes it's just, the truth seeps into people sometimes slowly, and they realize that Islam is the truth, and then they convert. For me, it was a little bit different. It was fast for me. I read about Islam. I read the Quran on a Wednesday, and I converted on a Friday. I read Surah Al-Maryam, and as someone who was born Catholic, baptized Catholic, not practicing, it resonated with me, hearing about all the different prophets. That I didn't know that Islam shared the same prophets. I didn't know that they believed in Abraham and Moses and David and Noah and the miraculous birth of Jesus and the Virgin Mary. I didn't know about all that. So when I read it, it resonated with me. And I realized that this it has to be the truth. It's the same prophets. Like nobody would make this up, And so it made sense to me. So I converted. No, that's not mine at all. I quote that a lot, and Sam Mechanic quotes that a lot too. I believe, if I'm correct, that is either Imam Zayd or Dr. Sherman Jackson who came up with that. And what it means is that just come as you are to Islam as it is. It means whatever phase you're in your life, in your spiritual growth, whatever you're in, Islam still has a place for you. And the second part of it is important to Islam as it is, meaning that we're not changing the religion for people. The religion is as it is, but it's still going to accept you. Because I think you have these extremes sometimes on both sides, ultra-conservative and then ultra-liberal, where the ultra-conservatives are very literal and Islam can't accept you because you're doing those things wrong, and so Islam is only for pious people. Sinners have to go somewhere else. And that's not what they mean. That's really the kind of outcome of what they're teaching. And then you have these hyper-liberals who are, it doesn't feel right for me to do that, and Allah wouldn't put that in me unless it felt right, so I'm just going to do what I feel right, even if it's against the Sharia of Islam. So what we're saying, no, it's a marriage of the two, it's the middle way. Exactly however you are, whatever problems you're having, whatever issues you're dealing with, come, Islam accepts you, but Islam is not going to change for you, right? So that's what we mean when we say come to Islam as it is. The best piece of advice that I ever received was from my father, who's not a Muslim, who told me after I converted to Islam, he said, be careful on your path to becoming a devout Muslim that you don't allow yourself to become a crappy human being.